homeowner is issued annual property tax bill. Step 2, homeowner misses property tax payment due date. Step 3, so far the same by the way. Grace period for payment, typically 30 to 90 days depending on the county. Step 4, county issues tax lien redemption period begins, even though tax deed. County issues tax lien redemption period begins. Okay. Now, did we duplicate the slide here? We may have. Step 4. Let me change that. In, for instance, the state of Texas, I just want to do one small change. County is going to issue the tax deed. That should say deed there, not lien. Tax deed in that particular state. If it's a tax deed state, instead of issuing a tax lien, they issue a tax deed. You actually own the property at that point. However, most of the tax deed states have redemption periods. And redemption periods are going to be sometimes based on the homestead rights that we talked about, or if the property's non-homestead right, they don't have as much time to redeem that. So during that time period, if that homeowner pays those taxes, you send back or you no longer own the deed of that property. They're still responsible to pay that penalty, and you get that return. Okay? So the same scenario, redemption period, typically 1 to 5 years, depending on the state. So if it's 5 years, you don't necessarily want to go in and do capital improvements to that property, even though you own it, other than what it takes to maintain normal wear and tear on that property. Hot water heater goes out, you've got a tenant in there, you want to get that fixed. You'll get that reimbursed. But you don't want to do a complete renovation project on the deal, because if the homeowner goes back, pays those taxes, they now have a much improved property. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay, let me get through this last one and I'll answer that. The redemption period ends, and then number 7, we'll scratch number 7. This was a duplicate of the previous slide. I'm not sure why that was on there. So redemption period ends, then you can do any renovations, you can do anything you want to the property, but you've got to wait till that ends. Now again, normal wear and tear, or the expense that is used to maintain the property, will be reimbursed to you typically. Typically. Question? You can sell the deed to somebody else. Sure you can. But if that homeowner comes back, they have the right to take that house back. So if you're selling that to somebody, they need to understand that that's not a normal transaction. The homeowner, because you bought it at tax deed sale, has the right to come back, pay those taxes, and take their property back as ownership. Does that make sense?
So you basically have an option on the property.
Somewhat like an option, yes, as Marco says, absolutely. Now, is that done? Sure. And, you know, the closer you get to the end of that redemption period, maybe the lower their risk is. At the beginning of it, maybe not so enticing. Okay? Yes?
You were a buyer in that case. You didn't title search, but it showed that there's still a redemption period.
Clouded title. Clouded title. You still want to have work done and make it a merchantable title. Okay? But you can sell the, as Marco says, the option on that, or the rights to that. Absolutely. Somebody else had one? Yes?
How do you determine which states are deed states?
I'm going to show you here in a second. Yep.
You're just wondering at what stage, if the homeowners are still living in the home, is it when the county issues the tax deed where they're, if you wanted to rent it out?
Yeah, that depends on the situation there. Sometimes the homeowner will be living there. Other times, if it was an investment property, you'll have a tenant that lives there with a lease. So you'll have to, make sure, because you, in the deed situation, you'll have to honor that lease that's in effect. But in a sense, you own that lease now.
So you can collect the rent.
You can collect the rents.
But if it's a homeowner that's living there,
If it's a homeowner that's living there, they're probably not going to be, or we're paying rents, but you're going to either have to evict them or turn that into a rental situation. Yep, you got it. Okay? Yes?
I still don't see the benefit of if the redemption period is 5 years, you're taking such a big risk because, when the appreciation goes up, the property price might goes up and the owner want to take back the home.
Right. But you got to remember, in most cases, for that to happen, they've probably, if they haven't paid their real estate taxes, they probably weren't paying their mortgage as well. So there's going to be a mortgage lien foreclosure on their home. Okay? Number one. Number two, when you're buying the tax deed or lien in that situation, you're getting paid, in some cases, very high interest rates per year. You're making 18% on that money. So if you've invested 30 grand or 20 grand, you're getting a high return per year on that money. So it's not like you're losing out at risk. You're getting a very good return on the money that you're investing. Now, you may not get the property ultimately if it works out where they take it back, but during that time, you've got a high interest rate return on your money.
That's the part I lost is tax deed penalty, I still get the interest. I thought I don't
You
get
do,
the interest.
because if you own the property, but you've paid the tax deed, the tax liability. If the owner comes back and pays those taxes plus penalties, you get the penalties as the interest. Does that help?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
At what point do you get your money though? You don't get your money, like if you had a renter and you're making that money, but you wouldn't make the other money, the interest money until your time is up, until the time is up.
Her question is, how do you, hold on guys, the question is, how do you get paid your money? If you have a renter in there, you're getting money monthly. You're still going to have to pay insurance, taxes, all of that. Okay, so you've got expenses there as well. But your interest on the money that you invested in the tax liability, depending on the county, you might get paid every 6 months, every year, usually, or when the taxes are paid by the owner. So that's dictated by the county. Typically, though, it's every year. It's every year. Okay? Anything else? Yes.
In a tax deed county, at the end of the redemption period, do you have quiet title action as well?
You do. You've got to make sure that you have, in most cases, you got to make sure that you have merchantable title. In other words, when somebody does a title search on that property, they'll see it as clouded title. In other words, it doesn't have anything to do with you because you own the property now, but they've got an IRS tax lien on there. They've got a bank foreclosure lien on there. It doesn't have anything to do with you. So through quiet title action, those things get removed. Now, it takes about 120 days for an IRS lien to get removed. Bank liens and such that didn't have to do with you, but the previous owner, are a lot quicker than that, usually 30 days or less. Okay?